Healthlink Advisors is a top-rated healthcare advisory firm that provides a wide range of services to improve healthcare delivery and operations. Founded in 2016, Healthlink Advisors serves hospitals, health systems, physician practices, payer organizations, software companies, and venture capitalists. The HealthLink Advisors team is composed of seasoned professionals with extensive experience in healthcare IT, operations, and management consulting. Those professionals provide great services like IT strategy, such as governance, operating model design, platform assessments, and selections, enterprise imaging, IT financial management, including application rationalization, platform cost modeling, and value realization, AI and intelligent automation, enterprise analytics, and system implementation and program and project management. HealthLink Advisors leverages deep industry knowledge and a collaborative approach to help healthcare organizations navigate complex challenges and achieve their strategic goals. Visit healthlinkadvisors.com for more information.
Today on Newsday.
Now we're finally, I think, getting to that point where we've got the base layer in place to go make things happen. And now it's like layering all the cool things on top, right?
My name is Bill Russell. I'm a former CIO for a 16-hospital system and creator of This Week Health, where we are dedicated to transforming healthcare one connection at a time. Newsday discusses the breaking news in healthcare with industry experts. Now, let's jump right in. All right, it's Newsday, and today we are joined by Steve Hendrick, SVP of Implementation and Selection with Healthlink Advisors. Steve, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
A little bit going on in healthcare these days. We're going to try to hit some of the news items. But before we get there, implementation, selection, is there a specific space that you focus in on or a specific set of technologies that you're looking at?
Yeah, so we do a good majority of the pre-implementation planning work for folks looking at transitioning onto an enterprise EHR. Obviously, as on the marketplace today, most of those decisions are to take the Epic path. So we help identify benefits, what they're going to achieve from an enterprise system implementation, and then what's going to cost, and help them build the overall business case to transition.
Wow. There's a couple of implementations going on. Some really big ones. You got Northwell going on, you have UPMC,
Yeah.
You have Intermountain. Is it safe to call them laggards at this point? Because it's not that they're laggards. Some of them are really early adopters in the EHR space, but they're really late to the game in terms of moving to Epic. I would assume that they're going to have a lot of benefits of all the rest of the industry having gone first that they're going to be able to look to and to rely on, I think.
Yeah, and I think they are going to get a lot of benefit in terms of implementation timeline. There was an article not too long ago, I think it was Becker's, around how the Epic implementation timeline overall has been streamlined. I think the use of external consultants and staff resourcing required to go implement has lessened over time because you're just getting more efficient, more repeatable. Everybody's signing up for that foundation system so they know what's going to be built at the end of the day. They know what benefits they're supposed to expect.
Yeah, I'm expecting some angry emails from my friends at Intermountain, UPMC, and Northwell. They are rarely referred to as laggards, maybe in this one space. And actually, I think in each case, they were trying to be ahead of the game, and then they just got to this point and said, you know what, there's just too many benefits in consolidating down to a single implementation. But that gets us to our first story. And our first story is Epic is number one worldwide after adding 356 hospitals last year. And this is talking about that international market share. They're talking about New South Wales, Australia, a bunch of places. Oracle or Cerner, I had that spot. And I think people in the US didn't recognize that Cerner still had a significant presence internationally, but even that's starting to get chipped away at as we move forward. What do you take from this article?
Yeah, I think Australia was a Cerner replacement, a Cerner Oracle replacement there. So it's almost, you look at the others in the space and Cerner Oracle specifically, it made a big press to get international and build up a big presence, while Epic may have been more focused within the US and building, right? And you see their path to growth, right? They won't jump into anything that they're not able to take on or handle, from my perspective. So they're slowly picking up market share and picking up different pieces. And they finally gotten to a point where they can jump into that international market, and they jumped in with both feet, right? So
Yeah, 191 hospitals in Australia transitioning to Epic. Some other stats on this. They have 39.1% market share in the US, adding 153 hospitals and 28,000 beds in the US. Yeah, Latin America adding 147 hospitals. The momentum is pretty strong, which gets us to the second story on about Epic, and that is, what will the EHR look like in 10 years? You had a chance to read this story. What are your thoughts on EHRs in 10 years? What's going to be possible in 10 years that we are, I don't know, maybe just at the start of today, or we just haven't even thought about doing today?
Yeah, it's crazy, right? If you look back at the progression, I remember 15 years ago when I started my career out implementing Cerner at Baycare Health System over in the Tampa area. And at that point, it was just getting live with something to go achieve the benefits from a government perspective and the paybacks in that space and start the interoperability journey. But the whole goal was like, wow, it would be so cool if there was another patient exactly like me that had my same conditions and was treated 9 times out of 10 a certain way and had a 100% success rate, right? And we could tie all that information back and have it available. And now we're finally, I think, getting to that point where we've got the base layer in place to go make things happen. And now it's like layering all the cool things on top, right? To make people's lives more efficient, focusing on physician burnout in the AI space. I think that's going to continue. There's going to be that base EHR level, and then we're just going to keep piling on all the cool stuff.
The ambient listening is really taking off. It's not that it's new in healthcare, but it's been democratized. The cost has come so far down that it used to be, hey, which doctors are going to get it, which ones aren't? And I think that calculus has gone away. I think more and more people are just saying, you know what? If a doctor wants it, we'll give it to them because the cost has come down that far.
Yeah, and I think that's the first step is the ambient listening, and then you take in the play to the new stuff that's coming out with the camera technology, right? And just think about all the decisions that you're making with your eyes in a room, et cetera, and how much more efficient places can get by utilizing that technology. But then you get in that whole space of, okay, if I put a camera and a microphone in a room, how do I go manage that, right, from an IT perspective? And that adds complexity, but a lot of efficiencies as well.
Yeah, we have several of our sponsors are in that computer vision space, and they have connected into the EHR. And it's interesting to think about, is that another set of eyes? Is that a set of eyes that can run through AI a set of rules and reasoning and say, this bed needs to be cleaned, or this patient needs to be turned, or this patient's getting out of the bed, or that kind of stuff. But man, just to think about, it used to be a nurse or a nurse station would oversee 10 rooms or something like that. And now there's going to be a camera in each one. And you could have a nurse overseeing 20 or 30 rooms from a distance, and just having those alerts pop up and be able to really hone in on those individual rooms. You think we will see, I'm already talking to people, there's a lot of the forward-leaning organizations that are thinking about and looking at pilots around these cameras. But do you think in 10 years, we're going to go into, it's just going to be second nature to have that camera and that microphone in every one of the rooms that care is being provided?
Yeah, I think that's highly possible, right? And it might even start with the rural locations. And the rural hospitals don't necessarily have the budget to go do it, but they would achieve the most benefit by doing it, starting off in that space. But yeah, I think it's highly possible that happens. And to take another spin on from a hospital operations perspective, if you think about all the value from like a supply chain perspective, how many people are still doing manual inventory counts? Now you could just have audits on a regular basis. You could just have a camera sitting in that supply room, monitoring consistently, right? Automatically ordering. There's efficiencies across the board. And that might happen faster than the patient side of it.
Yeah, it probably will happen faster than the patient just because of the risk associated with patient. And then I'm not sure we figured out the camera thing yet.
Yeah.
I hear CIOs still struggling with that. It's like, what kind of camera are people going to be comfortable with? And there's people talking about cameras that droop down to let people know that they're not on camera. There's some that have talked about cameras that have a cover that goes over it. Others are just using the light, and the light's on when they're recording and it's not on when they're not. But I think there's a significant amount of value in that camera being on almost all the time. And culturally, I don't know how we get patients comfortable with that, except to say, maybe those aren't being monitored by a person. Maybe it's just going through an algorithm. I don't know. Maybe there's some privacy trade-offs in order to provide a higher level of care in each one of those rooms.
Yeah, I think the younger generation might be more and more okay with that, right? As opposed to the older generation. It might be one of those things where you opt in automatically and you've got an option for them to opt out long term. Thinking about the CIO's challenge in their seat, there's obviously the security, the privacy with the patient. And then how do you get to a point where you just got like maybe one device in the room? Because we had a newborn not too long ago. I think my wife will know if I'm wrong on this. I think she's 11 weeks old now. And they had a
Congratulations.
Alexa. Oh, thank you. Thank you. They had a Alexa in the room. And the Alexa had the ability to sync up with their call system. So we could be like, hey, Alexa, can you send the nurse in? Without even having to page the nurse, it would go to their call center and then the nurse would get sent in. But that's one device. So when you get the camera, the other microphone, how are you going to manage that long term? So you don't have 10 different things for one-off use cases in there.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Richardson, president of the 229 Executive Development Community at This Week Health. I'm thrilled to share some exciting news with you. I'm launching a new show on our conference channel called Flourish. In Flourish, we dive into captivating career origin stories, offering insights and inspiration to help you thrive in your own career journey. Whether you're a health system employee in IT or a partner looking to understand the healthcare landscape better, Flourish has something valuable for you. It's all about gaining perspectives and finding motivation to flourish in your career. You can tune in on thisweekhealth.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. Stay curious, stay inspired, and keep flourishing. I can't wait for you to join us on this journey.
I don't know if you had this experience, but one of the most challenging experiences for me was building a building, because I'm with a health system, we're building some stuff, and they're asking me questions like, hey, how do we future-proof this patient room or this whatever? I'm looking at them like, all right, define future-proof, because this stuff is changing pretty rapidly. They're like, we don't want to have to come in here and redo the room in 5 years and that kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, we have to think about power. We have to think about network connectivity to start. We have to think, are we moving wireless? Is 5 years enough time to say everything in this room is wireless? Most people would say, no, that's not going to happen. You're talking about telemetry devices, so that has to be wired. It is one of the most challenging puzzles, and you can't do 10 years out. You almost have to sort of plan for a certain finite amount of time, put enough stuff in there, and then hope you made the right decision. Have you ever had that experience? It's crazy.
No, but Moffitt over in the Tampa Bay area, actually, some of their folks did a presentation on their new hospital at one of the HIMSS chapter events and talked through all of that, right? Like, how do we go design this hospital while technology is moving so fast? And what do we put in here? How do we set it up? And the process that went through that. You plan as best as you can and you set up for the unknowns and try and get out in front of the technology that you're implementing.
One last thing this article talks about is interoperability. And it's such a difficult topic because the belief when we went to the EHR was built on interoperability. Like, we would tell people, oh, this is going to be great because we're not going to have to ask you 10 times for your information because your medical record will follow you. And it seems like we're getting interoperability through consolidation, because now when you talk about the EHR, essentially you're talking about Epic, Oracle, and Meditech. We're getting to the point where it used to be you had 150 different EHRs you had to connect in and whatnot. We're consolidating that down pretty dramatically. But there has to be more in the way of interoperability than just a consolidation of EHR vendors and formats that gets us closer to that promise of the medical record following us through our health journey. What did you pick up in this article as you looked at interoperability 10 years out?
Yeah, and I think, like you mentioned, it's happening through mergers and acquisitions. You look at some regions, the entire region or area is on the Epic platform. And that's how they've almost diminished the need for an HIE, right? To go do that in that regional area. But the question is, again, like you phrased it, right? Long term, will you really be at a space where your record can follow you around wherever you go at the end of the day? And it's easy, right? If you go from Epic Shop to Epic Shop, and then your consumer experience is all within my chart, and that information's exchanged easily. But if you jump to a Cerner shop, a Meditech shop, and then an Epic shop, and you've got all the ambulatory folks involved in your care. If you've got complex condition who are on the Athenas, and then you've got the PE-backed firms that aren't touching the Epic space. So what is going to be the answer? I think it's going to get better from my perspective, but it's going to be through mergers and acquisitions, the consolidation of health systems. I do not think we'll be at a point, right, where they're easily transmitting information between an Epic, an Oracle, Meditech.
Well, Steve, this is one of my favorite topics to talk about is interoperability. And I know people find that hard to believe, but it's one of those things that I think about that I believe is possible, but we have to think opposite. And we have to think the patient being the locus of the medical record instead of the health system being the locus of the medical record. And I would love it if I go on vacation in a remote place and I get injured, that somebody just picks up my phone or scans something, and my medical record is there because I'm the locus. I'm the one carrying my medical record with me, either cloud-based or on my phone or whatever it happens to be, so that my entire medical record is literally following me wherever I go, wherever I present. And it's not a matter of, oh, that technology can't move that record, or we have to call their medical records and get those papers sent over, or whatever it is. That becomes a thing of the past, because a number of things that follow me wherever I go. If you ask me for my bank information wherever I'm at, I'm going to be able to give you that bank information, and I'm going to be able to go back a long time. And not only my primary bank, but other things have been pulled together over the years. And I think we could do that same thing in healthcare, but it requires us to think differently and act differently in terms of really empowering the patient and giving the patient access to that medical record wherever they go.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And you probably might be out in front of me in this space, because I think, years ago, it was hot for a little while where I think Microsoft and Google both came out with like products where you can store your health information.
The old
like,
Health Vault days, I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it died out, right? Like to a certain extent, at least stopped getting publicity and stopped being a press towards something.
And the
like
two
that.
problems with it is, one, there's no economic model behind it. And then the second is it opens them up to regulatory scrutiny. So Google doesn't want to store the medical record because it opens them up to the same kind of regulatory environment that health systems have in housing the medical record. And Microsoft had a similar issue, and they both were like, regulatory too big. But at the end of the day, there was no economic model around it. It's just for the common good of the patient. So that's what killed them both, I believe.
Honestly, even happier from a consumer perspective, we get to the point where I just got one portal I could go into for everything. Because now we've got the two kids, my wife, and trying to figure that out. We've probably got, I don't know, 7 different portals just within my immediate family.
Wow. Yeah, it would be nice.
You don't go see a lot of healthcare places either, right? It's just.
And maybe for your kids, it'll be different. They were born in an Epic hospital. They're going to go abroad and be at an Epic hospital, and they're going to be local and they'll be in an Epic hospital. My only point to that is I hope we never get to 100% Epic, because that would, I think, be the definition of a problem.
Yeah. But I think that's where it's heading, right? If you look at it, that's literally where it's heading, and nobody's jumping out in front because they're picking up all the large health systems who are out there doing the acquisitions. It's almost like there's going to be a not-for-profit healthcare organization, EHR. There's going to be a for-profit EHR, and then there's going to be a government EHR. And they're setting up in that way where it's like the government, obviously, right? Oracle doing the VA, the DoD deal, Meditech being used broadly within HCA. And it's like that. You look at the rural space, and that's one space where Epic's not winning, right? They're going Oracle Community Works, that smaller space. But now, right, Garden Plot's coming out. Who knows how fast that'll be pressed out, but That's where Epic, right, is actually hosting, right, acting as the host for the EHR. I think they're starting with orthopedics. That pilot might be in process, but
Yeah.
competing against healthcare systems for that Community Connect business.
Yeah, it's interesting how you frame that. It's like the cost conscious are going in Meditech direction, the not-for-profits are going in the Epic direction, and then the government's going in the Oracle direction. It's going to take me a while to get used to saying Oracle instead of Cerner. It still doesn't just flow at this point, but yeah.
And is somebody else going to jump out, right? If you look at ERP, right, like Workday kind of came out of the woodwork, obviously ex-PeopleSoft folks, but it came out and they really jumped out in front of everything that was being done in that space. Is somebody going to do that in the next 10 years from an EHR perspective?
Yeah. One of the biggest problems of a monopoly is people worry that they're going to flex their muscle and their control over an industry. But to be honest with you, the thing that has always fascinated me is every time I talk to an Epic client, they will say some aspect of this sentiment, which is best vendor, best partner I have is Epic. They listen to me, they respond to my questions, all this other stuff. And if people are worried about them being a monopoly, they're not acting like a monopoly. So kudos to them for not taking advantage of that. And 39.1% is technically not a monopoly at this point. It is something other than that. So we ended up talking about that for a while, but that's the end of our show. So Steve, hey, congratulations again on the addition to your family, and thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I had a great time, Bill.
Thanks for listening to Newsday. There's a lot happening in our industry, and while Newsday covers interesting stuff, another way to stay informed is by subscribing to our daily insights email, which delivers expertly curated health IT news straight to your inbox. Sign up at thisweekhealth.com/news. Thanks for listening. That's all for now.